What's the word, Cosmic Family? What's the word, job? I'll wait till a few people get in the chat before I actually, discuss today's topic. Plant a tree today. But we actually about to agree to get into this classroom session, man, about your higher and your lower self, man. This is actually the hidden war between the higher and the lower self, right? So let's start off by discussing what is your higher self and what is your lower self. So, so basically, your lower self represents your ego, impulses, pride, fear, lust, anger, and the need for control or validation. Again, let me repeat that. Your lower self represents the ego, impulses, pride, fear, lust, anger, and the need for control or validation. So this is the voice that wants what's easy, right? It wants what's comfortable. It wants the familiar. Even if this is keeping you stagnant, right? This is our lower natures, right? Our lower natures, for real, keep us at clubs every motherfucking weekend, right? Our lower self keeps us constantly getting into quarrels and getting into it with people about, what they said about you, what they said to you, X, Y, and Z, right? People have to understand that this is your lower self that is actually doing the talking and taking the front seat whenever you are in your ego, whenever you are prideful, whenever you are lustful, right? Like when we go out to the club and shit like that, when people go out to the clubs and the bars and shit like that for lustful intentions, for lustful reasons, man, we are just giving to our lower selves. We are just feeding this dog, right? Because essentially, there's two dogs, minions. How you doing? So essentially, there's two dogs inside of us, right? We identify these two dogs with your conscious and your subconscious mind, but y'all can also say that these two dogs are your higher and your lower self. Which dog you feed, your higher or your lower self becomes stronger with every time you feed that dog. 12 people in the chat, 16 people in the chat. What's the word? I mean, please like, subscribe, man. Please help me get in the algorithm. We are talking about your higher and your lower self. And let me read this again since we got y'all in the chat. Your lower self represents the ego, impulses, pride, fear, lust, anger, and the need for control or validation. This is your lower self, right? Your lower self is the familiar voice that wants what's easy, right? It wants what's comfortable. It wants the familiar, even if this is keeping you stagnant. So, y'all remember what I was saying about them two dogs inside our head? Yeah, there's another dog inside your head. There's another dog inside of your head, right? Metaphorically, and this is your higher self, right? But it's actually literally because it's like an angel and the devil sitting on our shoulders. And again, I am talking about the tug of war battle between the higher and the lower self. This is actually a hidden battle between the higher and the lower self, and the powers that be know that this war exists, and they constantly feed our lower selves and to indulging in clubs, to indulging in fast food, to indulging in just pleasurable things, right? Because our lower self, right, loves pleasure. Our lower self seeks pleasure, right? Our lower self basically seeks the need for control and validation. This is our lower self. So whenever you seeking control or validation from a motherfucker, whenever you are, doing something because this person was like, okay, yeah, it's cool, or because you think that this is gonna make this person smile, you're doing this in turn in operation for your lower self. So now the other dog inside your head, and this is the higher self, right? So your higher self is the divine aspect of you. This aspect of you is the divine aspect, right? This is the aspect of you that exists in love, right? Wisdom, discipline, truth, and peace, right? Again, let me say that again. Your higher self, this other dog inside of your head, right, exists as the divine aspect of you. This dog has or exists in love, wisdom, discipline, truth, and peace. It sees from a higher perspective, and it calls you to grow, forgive, and align with your purpose, right? So your higher self operates in wisdom. It operates in discipline. So whenever you're not disciplined, whenever you are, constantly seeking pleasurable things but are not disciplined enough to actually go to work and to actually take the thing, or to actually take care of the things that you need to take care of, you are existing in your lower self. Your higher self sees things from a higher perspective, and your lower self, of course, sees things from a lower perspective. So let me give y'all a real example. Y'all see this tree? Y'all see me looking up at the, if I look at this tree from right here, what can I see? I can only see branches, right? I can't necessarily see from a higher perspective of the tree. I only think that it's branches. But if you actually back up, right, and you see the whole entire tree, right, that is your higher self. Your higher self sees from a higher perspective. So rather than making a judgment call towards this tree right now and saying, oh, all I see is branches, I see no leaves, right? That is from a lower perspective. That's from a lower self. But seeing that from a high perspective and actually seeing all the branches from a, broader horizon and shit like that, that's me seeing things from a, higher self perspective, right? So basically your higher self your higher self calls you to grow, forgive, and align with your purpose, right? We often chase pleasure, right? Not knowing that pleasure is fleeting, and whenever we chase pleasure, you kind of always have pain chasing you too. But it's not necessarily pain, it is your higher self chasing you, because everything has to align, everything has to find balance in the universe. So actually think about it like this. This is a tug-of-war battle between your higher and your lower self. And this battle usually happens in moments of choice. When you have to choose between choice A and choice B, this is when your higher and your lower self takes the front seat. It's like this. Do you react out of anger or respond with awareness? Right? See, reacting out of anger would be your lower self. Responding to awareness would be your higher self. Y'all get what I'm saying? Do you chase pleasure or choose purpose? Let's think about it. Do I chase pleasure or do I choose purpose? Right? Because pleasure is fleeting, right? But purpose is your higher self, right? Purpose is what your higher self seeks, right? So a lot of times we try to find purpose in life, and a lot of times we think that, our jobs and shit like that give us purpose. We think that, what else gives us purpose? We think that, right? It's almost it's very few things in this world that really gives you purpose, right? Because purpose isn't being promoted in today's society. Purpose isn't being promoted. Purpose isn't being, the number one driving factor behind why musicians are making the music that they are making, or why creators are creating the content that they are creating, right? This world that we live in is existing in the lower self. This world that we live in is existing in basically a devilish society, if you actually think about it, right? See, the lower self, again, represents ego, impulses, pride, fear, lust, anger. This society, right, this country loves promoting those things. It loves promoting a person with a big ego, right? All your streamers have a big ass ego, right? Love promoting impulses, right? Impulse buying. You can buy fucking, on every, media site damn near nowadays, right? You got so many ads, you got so many click to pay here's and shit like that. You got impulse buying, right? What you have pride, right? This country has a lot of pride. Our president, right, is very prideful, right? Fear, yes, fear of food stamps and shit like that being cut off and shit like that soon. We are a society living in fear, lust. How do you see all the women dressing and shit like that? Nowadays, what's being promoted how for women to look like and shit like that, and how they present themselves, right? How many, strip clubs and shit like that do we have? How many women actually dress out, you know, to be, how many women come out every Saturday and every Friday looking provocative, right? Not saying that that's bad, but that only, makes motherfuckers lustful after them, right? Seeing all that ass and them titties out, right? What else? And the need for control or validation. Literally, our whole country is operating on a very low vibration, or a very low energy. And I just said that as it was 11:11 on the timer, right? See, the higher stuff, you can tell that our country isn't operating on higher aspects, right? Or if you're not operating on higher aspects, if you are not, in the jeez, that was a real bad stutter. Yeah, but if you are not operating on the divine, oh goodness, there's a beetle right under me. Yeah, but if you are not operating on what's the word, twin? If you are not operating on love, wisdom, discipline, truth, or peace, right, then you are not operating on a divine or higher nature, right? You're operating on a low nature, right? So yeah, it's only took me 12 minutes, but it wasn't that bad. Any questions? Any questions? The higher self and the lower self is, you could also equate that to the conscious and the subconscious mind as well, right? Because you could equate that to the conscious and subconscious, and you could equate that to good and evil, right? We have forces, man, in this world. We have, forces. Like, this is a crazy ass world that we live in, man. But this whole world is playing on your lower chakras as well, and your lower chakras play a real big part on your lower and your higher self. Since we're actually speaking about lower and higher self, you have lower chakras and then you have higher chakras, right? Your low chakras are the color red, orange, and yellow, right? This is root chakra energy, right? They will always want to keep you in a fear state, right? That's what red operates on, is a fear state, right? They want to keep you cautious. They want to keep your security and shit like that compromised. You also have the color orange above that, and orange governs your sacral chakra, right? They want to have you lustful, for everything. They want to have you, craving and basically just having impulses and shit like that, right? Your solar plexus chakra, right? They want your confidence and shit like that. They want that to be fucked up. They want your confidence to be, they want to kill it. They want you to have to go to the beauty supply and shit like that every motherfucking weekend to go buy some motherfucking weed, because you feel like that niggas won't only think that you look beautiful with some motherfucking weave on. You hear me, twin? Man, exactly. Like I'm saying. Like, for real, this is exactly what's going on. This is the world that we live in. They want to keep us in those three chakras, right? They don't want to put us in our heart space. And even if they did put us in our heart chakra, which is the space above the solar plexus chakra, even if they did want to put us in our heart chakra, they want us to not be able to give or receive love. They want us to be heartless. And the black community, to me, has adopted that identity so much, right? To be heartless, to be cold, to be, to just not show no love, or to show no, sympathy or remorse for people, right? They want us to be at that. They want us to have a compromised throat chakra, which is the center above the heart chakra space, right? They want us to not speak our truth, or if they do allow us to speak our truth, we speak it in such a devilish way, right? We rap about it. My fault. Speaking of throat chakra, throat chakra is the color blue, right? No reason why Vaseline is the color blue. Like, there's no fucking coincidence in none of this shit. Like, literally no coincidence, man. They play on our chakras all the motherfucking time. But as I said, and as I'm going back to the actual throat chakra energy, right? They want us to be able to not speak our truth. They want us to, and again, throat chakra energy, blue. I take this off, right? That's throat chakra energy. Is it a coincidence? No. Nothing in this world is a coincidence. They use colors on us every fucking day, right? All the time. It's called color magic, right? Look at this. Checkerboard. Checkerboard. Yeah. Colors. This is actually a Freemasonic pattern or some shit like that, right? Which means that I'm sure Freemasons have involvement with this area and shit like that being built in X, Y, and Z. Like, they put their little, they put their signs, right? But you have to be able to see through the illusion and shit like that, right? You have to understand that you have 7 chakras. Those are at least the basics, right? You have root chakra. You have your root chakra, right? That's your first chakra. That's red. Then you have your I'm sorry. I noticed so much. It's just whenever I'm reciting, it's just nervous, right? You have your root chakra, that's red. You have your sacral chakra, that's orange. You have your solar plexus chakra, that's yellow. You have your heart chakra, that's green. As y'all can see what I'm wearing. You have your throat chakra, that's blue. You have your third eye chakra, that's purple, or you can say lavender. And then you have your crown chakra, that's at the top of your head. You can say that's around purple or lavender too. But I actually said those are around the same colors, to be completely honest, right? I mean, I know they could be different. I know that the shade of purple is slightly off, shit like that, between your third eye chakra and your crown chakra, right? And I'm sure that I probably do have time to explain what these chakras are, right? But I kind of did, though, right? Throat chakra governs, a lot about how you speak your truth and shit like that, right? Whenever, like, look at King SSG's talking emojis right there, right? Aren't they the color blue? It's no coincidence, right? But basically, they want to be able to control your speech. They want to be able to control your truth. They want you not to speak your truth when they compromise this throat chakra energy, right? And then even if you do speak your truth, they want you to, even if you do speak, they want you to speak in such a way that it poisons people that hear it, because life is in, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And what do we rap about in our music, right? We rap in life to a lot of the shit that's going on in our environments, right? This is what we listen to every single day. We can't stay away from music. That's all you hear. They using that shit to subjugate you, right? This is real motherfucking life, man. You have a higher self and you have a lower self, and they want you in that lower self. They want you in those lower 3 chakras. They do not want you on the positive pole of things. They don't want you on a positive pole of things, y'all. They don't. Now, hey, may I please like the video for me and subscribe? I know I've been talking for a little minute and I ain't been able to react and get to y'all and shit, but may I please like the video for me, subscribe. Try to help me get in the algorithm, because I feel like that this is a time where people, are needing to hear this, right? Or at least this is a motherfucking time where I'm speaking this shit, so, At first, earlier, I was chasing pleasure. And then, pleasure started taking too fucking long, so I was like, fuck it. And I chased purpose, right? Did it hurt to leave pleasure? Yeah, but guess what? I fed that dog. Other dog in me, right? The one that was chasing discipline and purpose. I fed that dog instead of the dog that's seeking pleasure, right? I fed that dog. And in turn, that dog got stronger, right? Like, for real. I gotta go get some lunch now, man. It's crazy. So I wanted to just chill at this park for real, for real. I was actually really enjoying my time. But essentially, man, I will get back up with y'all. Try to be at peace though. I share.